who's been impressing at development camp. Max Miller from the Hockey News joins to discuss what he's seen so far at Sharks development camp.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now and Inside the Rink. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And Max Miller from the Hockey News joins because he's been there. I had to make a choice: the draft or development camp. I think I made the right choice by going to the draft. But it's Max Miller. He's been there, eyes and ears, kind of watching the prospects. So I wanted to have him on, get his reaction to what he's seen from some of the players. Of course, we talk about Will Smith, we talk about Quentin Musty, we talk about Filip Bystedt, we talk about the defensemen, we talk about the goalies, we talk about a little bit of everything. So let's get into it with Max. And now we bring in Max Miller, alumni of San Jose Hockey Now and currently writing for the Hockey News. Max, buddy, making your debut on Locked On Sharks. How's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, JD.
Appreciate it. I know this was very last minute. I usually try to schedule things out a little bit more, but I was like, let's slide in those DMs, and it worked out. So Max, who's been at development camp, I wanted to bring you on, get your initial impressions, because there's nothing better than overreacting to a bunch of teenagers practicing right now. So I think we have to ask, is Will Smith the greatest player ever, or did the Sharks blow the pick at number 4? No. How is Will Smith looking so far?
Fast. The first impression I see is fast. Hands are fast. Feet are fast. He looks quick. A little on the smaller side. I think he's got definitely some to strengthen. I mean, he's an 18-year-old kid. What else do you expect?
Yep.
But for sure, fast.
Yeah. You see that's what he's known for, right? That quickness, that how his ability to process and move very quickly. The clips that you put up and some of the other people have put up, you can see that with Will Smith. So, I mean, are you feeling good? I know it's a couple days of practice, but are you feeling good about Will Smith?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if anybody that's been following me on the Hockey News since I went over there, they know I've been on the Matvei Michkov train, but by no means does that mean Will Smith is a bad pick. I think he is a tremendous talent. I think Michkov is that much better. When you think about Matvei Michkov, he was pushing Bedard for the number 1 overall pick, but given his circumstances and some of the other stuff out of his control, he wasn't there. That shows you how good he is. But Will Smith is a top 5 pick. I think without Fantilli and you take away Michkov, I think he's a top 3 pick in almost any other draft. I would argue, let's say the 2020 draft, I would argue he'd go above Lafreniere and Byfield. Maybe not Stützle, but I would argue he'd be in that top 3 of that class. But he's the real deal. You could see him processing the game, thinking the game at just an elite level above almost everybody else on the ice.
And the USA skates, right? Just absolutely,
they're wonderful.
Fire. I like it. Hopefully he's we see a little bit of that. I think, just kind of interacting with him and talking with him. And I think there's a little bit of that kind of, I don't want to say cockiness, but there's a little bit of cockiness knowing that he's very good. And hopefully that kind of comes out when he finally does come over to the Sharks and we get to see him, full on be a Shark. And, you see that with the way he dresses or maybe with the skates or something like that. I hope we get to see a little bit of personality out of him, right?
Yeah, I think that's more, I wouldn't say cockiness. I think it's confidence, right? When you're picked that high in a draft, right? You look at guys like Eichel and McDavid, they know they're good.
Yeah. Will
Smith knows he's good. He's one of those guys where you feel like he's kind of good at everything. And it shows because he's got that swag, but he doesn't come off as cocky. He's like, oh yeah, I've worn USA skates. No big deal. I wore them for the World Championships, but I mean, he's got that swag.
I was the MVP of the World Championships.
Exactly. Yeah. I was the MVP, but I wore these. It's July 4th. I totally didn't try to it's one of those pshaw, don't worry about me. I'm just doing my thing. But he knows he's good on the inside.
And then, of course, Quentin Musty, right? The other first round pick from the Sharks. would have been your kind of initial, he's a big boy. At least that's what I noticed the first thing I saw him. So what's your initial thoughts on him so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit shorter than I was expecting, but he's wide, right? He's got broad shoulders. He's there's a clip I posted today on my Twitter of him just manhandling someone behind the net, just shove them over, just don't let him get to the front. I mean, he's opened some eyes. I think he really should have been a top 15 pick. When we talked to David Quinn today, his eyes lit up when we mentioned Quentin Musty. He's been a standout. Now, I think the biggest thing we're waiting for, something that he's even told us, is he's waiting to show it in a game situation. So tomorrow night, I'm really interested to see what he's going to do during that prospect scrimmage.
Yeah, Quentin Musty, that everybody talks about, going through the draft process, right? Even when I had Brock Otten on, they talked about, you could see it. You can see everything there. And if he just puts it together, whoever you're getting a first line forward from out of him. And I know it's just development camp and everything, but like, you can see the pieces for this guy to be one of those guys where 5 years from now, we're like, how did he fall to the Sharks at 26? A lot of people made mistakes with him. So that's good to see. And also 13 Musty just has a very, very, that is going to be a solid jersey around the tank.
One of the conversations we were having with Josh, who's helping out Shang with San Jose Hockey now, is the Sharks may have like the number one names team in the NHL. You've got Will Smith is a name in itself because he's an actor, he's a catcher, he's a pitcher, and now he's a hockey player. I think he's also a congressman. And then you've got Quentin Musty, that speaks for itself. And you've got Ozzy Weisblatt is another one. And then you've got William Eklund. Like, it's just the names that the Sharks have of the prospects is a pretty good names from a term crew. I mean, names per 60 is elite right now.
Yeah, and Bystedt with the Bystedt when he goes full beast mode.
Yeah.
And then Gannon and LaRock, like when you have Pebble.
Yep.
It's the Sharks names per 60 are really off the chart here. So let's talk about some of the other kind of, established guys. We know William Eklund, of course, isn't playing. He's still rehabbing his shoulder, but Bordeleau, this feels like a really big summer for Bordeleau. I know they've been part of the adult group. What have you seen from Bordeleau so far?
Yeah, so we're calling that group either the older guys or the, quote, intermediate class is what we're calling it. So, I mean, they're not doing much skating. They're doing a lot of shooting technique. We talked to Henry Thrun today. We talked to Bordeleau yesterday. He wants to take that next step. He said that was his plan last year. I think he got off on the right foot and he kind of got too far ahead of himself. It almost kind of feels like it's a make or break year. And I think he kind of is saying that without saying it. I think David Quinn is saying that. But I think given the Anthony Duclair trade, like, it opens the spot in the lineup who, yes, it's in the third or fourth line at center where I think he'll play much better as, but there's no, neither Quinn nor Bordeleau have either discussed. They both said they haven't talked about positionally, but both options are there. I think Bordeleau knows if he wants to be a player in the NHL, he needs to be successful on the center and at the wing, no matter what. And I think that's something that he understands and is going to work towards. I think driving the play more, I think, is something that he's working on and just kind of growing his game more than just being not a passenger, but more of a puck possession type guy who can drive play rather than somebody who can create plays. He can drive the play.
Yeah. And that's, I think what we see Bordeleau at his best is when he's kind of down the middle, creating that offense, right? You saw it in the first half of the season with the Barracuda, and then kind of after the All-Star break, right, it kind of fell apart, and then he was pretty much quiet when he was with the Sharks last season. So, yeah, I think Bordeleau with the puck on his stick, how can he make things happen? And he's very, very good at that. And we saw it even going back to the 21-22 season in that small sample size where he was a center and he had, he made Noah Gregor fun to watch. If you can make Noah Gregor fun to watch like that, that's something that, that's something in my book. So
for sure. I think one thing, if I might add really quickly here, he talked about in his last game, how he felt like he played free. That's something that we found out that David Quinn and him had a conversation before and after the game, and they both agree that was his best game of the season, was that last game against Edmonton. And he explained that was he played free. He just remembered to have fun again. So I think he was gripping the stick a little bit too tight. So he seems relaxed. He's showing a little bit more personality in front of the cameras. I feel, I could be wrong, but he seems to be playing relaxed, just trying to remember to have fun and play the game he loves.
Yeah, I mean, Bordeleau, I think the end of the season left a really sour taste to a lot of us, and we're kind of forgetting about, like, Bordeleau is still pretty good, like, type of player, I think. So we might be overreacting to the end of the season. So All right, before we continue with Max and we start discussing some of the goalies, we talk about Chrona and we talk about Romanov and how the Barracuda goalie battle is probably going to be shaping up this off season or when we head into training camp. Do need to take a quick break. Talk to you about our good friends over at FanDuel. And I know right now there's just baseball out there. And if you want to take your first swing at betting on baseball, FanDuel has got you covered. Right now, you can get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you land $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on betting everything from money line to over under. Who you think can hit the first home run? Normally, I would say Ohtani, but yeah, RIP Ohtani. Apparently, it's just a finger blister, so hopefully he's back soon. But, if you like watching Aaron Judge crush home runs or whoever you want to root for, they have player props that make it super fun. So it's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Let's switch gears and talk about kind of the blue line and the goalies, right? And we'll start with the goalies, actually, because we know we're going to have a goalie battle, at least for the Barracuda. E2 Makanemi is probably going to be the starter, but you have some newcomers, right? And Georgi Romanov, and then you also have Magnus Chrona. I know it's tough for these guys because a lot of the times it's very much one-on-one, but at least your first impressions, right? Especially Romanov, who we have not seen anything of. He's, literally had never seen a picture of him until he kind of showed up today with the sweet mask, right?
Yeah, for sure. Romanov, my first impression is he's going to get in the way of everything. Now, the big thing I have from him is he, he's the same size as Chrona. I think he's an inch bigger. I think one of them is an inch bigger. I don't know who it is off the top of my head, but he's going to get in the way of everything. He reminds me of that. He's that puck blocker, not that puck stopper right now. I think his talent is very raw. I think he exudes confidence. I think every day. I mean, even yesterday to today, he looked so much better. He just looked more relaxed. I think he not to say he played poorly on Tuesday, but I think he just kind of seemed like, oh, this is what I've got to do. These are the shots I'm facing. He just kind of adjusted. As for somebody like Magnus Chrona, he's steady Eddie. I mean, he's always in the right position. I wouldn't say he does anything crazy spectacular. I think his movement is smooth. I think it needs to be a little bit more explosive. I think these are very raw talent goalies that we could see some explosiveness. I think Eetu Makiniemi, out of the three of them, has the most explosivity in between, pushing from their legs left to right, and just kind of making that unreal. Like if I were to ask one of them to make a cross crease unreal save, I would rank them as Makiniemi 1, Romanov 2nd, just because he can get in the way of everything, and then Chrona 3rd. But in terms of controlling that puck afterwards, Corona's going to be right on top.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, all three of them are going to probably play Barracuda games this year. It's probably going to be a lot like last year, where it's going to be, I think, Makiniemi's crease, and then we're going to probably see Romanov and Chrona kind of bounce between the ECHL and back, and as they try to figure things out. But I mean, whoever wins, coming out of it, I think it's going to be very interesting, especially going into regular training camp. But good way to at least kind of set the foundation here in development camp. And I think that's,
and we'll see what happens with Mackenzie Blackwood. Obviously, he wants to come in and he wants to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But who knows if he gets hurt? I think Eetu Makiniemi is that first call up. We saw what he could do in the regular season last year. I mean, Capo Kakinen has gotten banged up a little bit. He's been involved in some trade rumors as well. But I think he's going to be on the roster come the start of the season. I really do. I don't think they're ready to give up on him. I don't think they want another Aiden Hill situation. Granted, I think that was a little bit of lightning in the bottle, but nonetheless, I mean, they're still young goalies. I mean, they're high on Blackwood. Mike Greer knows Blackwood, but one injury, you never know what opportunity. Look at Jordan Binnington.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Makiniemi's totally playing NHL games this year, too. I 100% agree with that. So, yeah, especially because, Blackwood hasn't been able to stay healthy, and Capo Kakinen has been Capo Kakinen. But, if Capo Kakinen gets traded, whoever he gets traded to, that team is winning the cup. I don't care who it is. That team is winning the cup this year, just because Sharks fans, we can't have anything nice. You know that.
Yeah, just what will the 4th round pick be?
What will the 4th round pick be? So let's talk about some of the defenders, right? We've a lot of new faces back there. We've got Pulli, Valtteri Pulli. Is it Pulli? I think that's how you say it.
Pulli. Yeah.
He's just watching some of the clips. Looks really intriguing, right?
Yeah, he is a big boy on the ice. He's 22 years old, so he's got a little bit of weight. 6'6", listed 6'6", 209. He was one of my focus watches today.
Yeah.
Some people asking online, how is he going to fit in? Obviously, he was an undrafted. So he actually let us in that, the Sharks were kind of in on him, and he knew he was going to sign with him about February, March. He just had to wait for his season to end. So he went from getting undrafted to having a bunch of teams wanting him. He will protect the crease like there is no tomorrow. He is going to be steady. I don't think he reminds me a lot of a Braden McNabb type player. He's going to be that big, steady defenseman. He's got a heavy shot from the point. He's not the dynamic, most best skater, but he's balanced. I mean, he's not going to do anything wrong. I don't see him. He reminds me of a more physical Mark Edward Vlasic, if you will. I think the Sharks lacked front coverage in the last few seasons, and I think he's somebody who can come in and help. I don't think he makes the team out of camp. I think a guy like Henry Thrun does, but I think, obviously, a guy like Pulli, who is also adjusting to the smaller ice, I think, given his size and his play style, he's not going to lose any battles on the boards, and you're not going to get to the front of the net. I mean, I posted 2 clips in the story I posted today and the ones online. If you try to go on the front, you're going on the ice. Like, that's it. Sorry, you're going on the ice.
Yeah, and I think the big news, too, of him saying he's going to stay in San Jose is huge, right? Because it felt like if he wasn't making the Sharks, he's going back to Finland. That's huge that he stayed here, especially for, I think there's going to be a lot of turnover, especially with this defense core for the Sharks. I mean, I know there's a huge questions about Erik Karlsson, but like even in the bottom 6, I think there's going to be, that bottom pair. I think there's going to be a lot of turnover there, and I think you're going to see a lot of these younger guys eventually get a shot. And, Henry Thrun, who I think at this point probably moving in with David Quinn because they seem like they're best friends because they're Quinn loves Thrun and won't stop gushing about it. I mean, he brought him with him to the World Championships. Thrun. And he's also already getting the old guy treatment, even though he's been in San Jose since March or April. So, how does Thrun look?
Yeah, he looks good. Again, he's with the intermediate group. He's with the old men. He's with the old guys. Nobody's as old as Nick Cicek, who is called himself the grandpa of the group. But I guess you could say maybe the uncle of the group is Henry Thrun, given that he's got the 8 NHL games. Yeah, he looks good. I mean, obviously, he's just working on the shot release. One thing that I liked from him today is it almost looked like a golf swing, if you will. Like you could see him setting up. Okay, process. Where should my hands be? Okay, right hand lower. Okay, feet. And it looks like he's thinking the game a little bit slower, but not in a bad way, but he's slowing the game down. I'll put it that way. And I think that will help him, especially for a guy who's looking to be an offensive. We saw some flashes, only 2 assists, but we saw some flashes of offense and his skating ability. We haven't seen too much of it, but I think come the scrimmage tomorrow, I think we're really going to see some changes to his game. I mean, he played in the World Championships. I think that's going to teach him a lot of lessons in terms of intensity. And I think he's going to open some eyes tomorrow. He's going to be kind of that forgotten prospect. It's like, oh, look, Valtteri Pulli, look, you've got
Madulin, you got
Madulin, all these other things. Yeah, my mind blanked for a second. Obviously, you've got Polkamp and all these other guys, Cagnoni, like all these guys. And it's like, oh, wait, Henry Thrun was in the NHL and played against, like, I think he's going to open some eyes this season. I'm not saying he's going to have a great, amazing Calder Trophy type season. He could. I don't think he's that high level of a talent, especially when you have a guy like Connor Bedard going for the Calder. But I think he's going to be that steady number 5 defenseman. And if Karlsson goes, I think he's the guy who gets first crack at the top power play unit.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's a whole nother discussion of who's running. I just say throw 5 forwards out there and figure it out.
I like that too. Kuda did that last year as well.
Kuda did it last year. It was like the most fun power play. But all right, guys, before we finish up with Max, we talk about some of just other guys who we kind of, talk a little bit about Bystedt, just some other guys, like just kind of a hodgepodge of guys that kind of stand out to him. Want to take a quick break. Thank you guys for making Locked on Sharks your first listen. Again, proudly a part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you gotta do is just come back tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about the prospect scrimmage. So you talk about which players stood out, just all the fun from watching some sort of hockey for the first time since the mid-April, at least Sharks hockey since mid-April. So again, just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. So out of these other, you mentioned Polkamp, you mentioned Cagnoni. I know it's going to be kind of fish out of water for them, kind of trying to learn. So any flashes, anything you've seen from those guys so far?
Yeah, I mean, Polkamp just looks like he's steady. I think he's a very raw talent. I don't know if he's got what it takes to get to the NHL, but he's such a good kid, though. His sister lives in Hayward, which is where I am right now, ironically. So he had never seen the ocean from Kenyoti. I mean, Nick Cicek knew him from I believe, from junior sometime growing up. He played with him one season. I think it might have been in Seattle. I forget exactly where he said. Bad journalism on my part. I didn't do the research, but we're working on a whole bunch of other things. But when you take it back, right, he's feisty. He's got some offensive skills. I think for a 4th round pick, I think that's a steal and a half. Like he should have gone in the 2nd or 3rd round from everything you hear about him and what you see. There's a bunch of guys up there, and then there's one unsung guy, if you don't mind just turning the card here. It's Ethan Cardwell. I mean, he just on every level is solid. I think he could be a perfect 3rd line winger. I think he's the second coming of Nick Bonino or Andrew Cogliano, maybe not as fast as Cogliano or maybe Matt Nieto type. He just doesn't do anything wrong. And he's got a good shot. He's a good skater. He's always in position. During the rookie face-off last year, he looked really good. He stood out to me, right? You look at guys like Brandon Coe, I would rank almost Ethan Cardwell a little bit higher. I just like his game a lot. It's feisty, it's aggressive, and it fits what the Sharks are trying to do with their competitiveness.
Yeah, I was going to turn it over to kind of, whichever the guys stood out to you. But yeah, Cardwell, I mean, if you remember, he was one of the last guys that went back to junior. And I think they struggled really hard with letting him, either going back to juniors or keeping him with the Barracuda. And I mean, we've seen with the Sharks, they like to let those guys kind of marinate one more season in their juniors. And I think Cardwell is going to come in and have a really nice season. And there's going to be some opportunities on this Barracuda team to, you think, Eklund's going to be gone this season, right? Guys like Weatherby and Chris Colo and Agazino, like a bunch of these guys are gone. Yep. And they're going to be asking some of these younger guys like your Robbins, your Weisblatts, your Coes, to kind of take a big step. And I think Cardwell's going to be able to kind of carve out a nice niche for himself for himself this season on the Barracuda. And like you said, I mean, getting a guy like Cardwell who could be a, defensively oriented maybe popping a couple points here and there on the 3rd line. That sounds perfect for him.
Yeah.
Right?
He's competitive. He's feisty. He's aggressive. He's even keel. That's the best part, right? I don't see him taking a lot of penalties. He may take the one, as a young player, he may take that one dumb penalty, but It's like he doesn't seem like he does much wrong. I mean, he's so solid. You look for guys like Brandon Coe to take the next step. I think he put on some weight. That's good. You mentioned him. Tristan Robbins, I think, is an interesting one. I think he needs to decide whether or not to take his game to the next level, if he's a top line AHLer or if he can be a 3rd line scoring forward in the NHL. He's got a terrific shot. And you another guy that might make the NHL, we showcased a little bit, be the new version of Noah Gregor, Daniil Gushchin. His shot looked great in his little flash in the NHL last year.
Yes.
And then his 6 games in 6 days. But I think a lot of those top 6 Barracuda guys that are still here, I think it's a lot of almost like not make or break year. You got guys like Coe who are going to come in and take a bigger role. You've got Cardwell. You've got more people coming in. You've got some of the other guys in the back end, right? Shakir Mukhamadulin's going to get a full season in Teal. Valtteri Pulli's up there, right? And then you've got Musty. Who knows what happens with him? I think I wouldn't rule him out going back to juniors right away. They're really high on him, and his Quinn's reaction to Musty when we asked him about it was a little surprising to me. Like they were like, "Whoa," like. He's been he said, quote, like he's been very impressive. Like Will Smith has been good. You could see, but when we talk about Musty, so who knows what happened to him? Maybe he jumps into the Barracuda. I don't think he's eligible for the AHL.
No, you can't. Actually. Yeah, it's either NHL or back to juniors. Which this CHL thing is they need to make like if you're 1st round pick or something like, or a top 50 pick or something, like there has to be some sort of an exception for that.
Yeah, something like that. I could see almost like a New York Rangers Filip Bystedt, maybe 8 games, see what he does, or even more recent, Wyatt Johnston. I don't think he stays. I really don't. I think he's too raw of a talent, but I think we could see him appear in the first few games here in the NHL season.
Especially if maybe just speculating, just me talking between friends, maybe if Eklund's shoulder is not healing quite fast enough, maybe Musty is holding down the fort until Eklund gets back.
He's feisty, he's aggressive, he doesn't get pushed around easily, he works hard, and he's even keel. I don't think he's going to get pulled out of his game too much. I think he's a perfect type player the Sharks need. I don't think he's quite ready, but I think they might want to get a look at him in the NHL, but you never know.
Taste. And then it's always good because then he knows exactly what he has to do when he 100% goes back, type of thing. So,
and flipping that to Will Smith, he knows what it's like, right? I think Will Smith is the kind of guy like he knows what his plan is. The Sharks know what his plan is. They know his talent. He knows he needs to go to BC, to go and get his get his game to the next level. And I think they have full trust in Will Smith to be on the team, possibly by the end of the season, and definitely next season. I think he's on the Sharks.
Yeah, I could see that with Smith. And then you're just putting Will Smith and Eklund on the same contract, and like, let's go. There's your new core. Anybody else that anybody else you want to talk about? Any other people that stood out to you, Max? That board is yours, whichever any.
See, there's a lot of players to keep track of.
I'm sure, yeah.
I think the biggest thing, and not a single player, I think the biggest thing that I want to point out here is the size of the camp. It's a big camp. Like, there's a lot of big players. The Sharks,
yes.
You look at the prospects, you're like, okay, Will Smith's decent size. And Musty, we talk about, and then you look at Eklund, he's a little smaller. And then you've got, okay, Tomas Hertl might play in the center of them. It's a big guy, right? Then you look at Shakir Mukhamadullin. That's 6'5". You've got Valtteri Pulli. That's 6'6". You've got
Casper Holtman, 6 foot.
Yeah. All these guys are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". Even the goalie's 6'4", 6'5". It's a big camp. It's been a common theme where, like, okay, hey, like for some of the other guys, you're like, hey, how you doing with the physicality? Like Svoboda went against Pulli today and he got ragdolled. Like, it's a big.
Svoboda's a big boy too. Yeah,
Svoboda's not. I think he's listed at 6'2". Like, these guys are big, but like the Sharks have a lot of big prospects, and I think that's something good because you're not. And one thing that Quinn talked about today is you're not drafting big just to draft big. Like, these guys don't have skill. Bystedt, another 6'4", 6'5" player, right? This guy's got some big size, and I think it's showing in development camp because when you see an 18, 19, 20-year-old and who's big, like Nick Cicek is with I think it's Barnett. He said, I've never felt small before.
Barnett's a big boy too. Yes,
he's 6'6", and he's like, and Cicek told me, he's like, I'm rooming with him in the hotel for the week, and I've never felt small before, but now I'm rooming with him. So this is a big camp. A lot of 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds were big guys.
Really quick, Bystedt, how's he look so far? I mean, there because he's an interesting one too, because there's talk he might stay in San Jose. He can stay in San Jose, play with the Barracuda this season, or he could go back to the SHL. We know Havlad's going back to Linkoping, but Bystedt, what do you think?
I think the biggest thing for him is foot speed. I think once he gets moving, he's on the slower end, but he can move, like he can handle it. I think it's similar to Dylan Strome, kind of when he first broke into the league, like he can be a producer and he can put up 50, 60 points if he's with the right people, but the skating is clearly a step behind. I think he thinks the game so well. I think it's time for him. I think if the Sharks are smart, I think you put him in the AHL. I think you go the William Eklund route. I think you need to get him fully adjusted to working with a smaller ice. I think his size and reach can be a major advantage along the boards. He thinks the game incredibly well. I think the only thing he's missing is the foot speed, and just getting up to speed just doesn't seem all the way there. But he's thinking the game. He thinks the game quick. I think he can get that quicker, but I think that'll come with moving his feet faster. He moves the puck quick. He's got good skill. I think he's a good prospect. Could easily see him as a middle six forward with him being on the upper end of that middle six. I think his size kind of solidifies him at the center. I don't think he'll do too well at the wing, especially without that foot speed. But he's looked good. I think I'm interested to see a little bit more out of him when it comes to the prospect scrimmage. I mean, obviously he was in development camp last season, so we got a little bit of a glimpse. I didn't have too much on development camp last season, but I don't know. He hasn't stood out to me too much, and he hasn't to the people around us. He hasn't stood out too much either there. So it makes me think that I think he needs to prove himself more in a game situation, which is something I think the coaches are implementing on a lot of the players here is, hey, we see what you're doing in practice and drills, bring it to the game and we'll evaluate from there. I think there's a couple of entry-level deals on the table here, depending on development camp.
Max, you said it all. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so Twitter, you see it on the bottom of your screen here, at @RealMaxMiller with the underscores. And then for the website, for all your content, it's just THN.hockeynews.com/San Jose. You'll see all the site on there. Obviously, I just want to give a big shout out. Thanks to Shang Peng. Obviously, I know this is going on San Jose Hockey now on his side as well. He taught me a lot of stuff that I know. It's been fun working with you guys over there, but on to greener pastures. But yeah, THN.com/San Jose. That's where you find my stuff. Twitter, it's just @RealMaxMiller. We're working on building some other outlets right now. I've got my own personal Instagram I'll keep to my own, but I'm working on building my own Instagram. But right now, for the main feed, it's Twitter is where you'll find me. And who knows, maybe we're going to Threads. Who knows what's going on if we get rate limited too much. But yeah, THN.com/San Jose. That's where you'll find all my articles.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it, JD. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed my conversation with Max. Thanks again to him coming on kind of a short notice. slid in those DMs, and he was more than happy to come on. So make sure you're checking out his stuff over at the Hockey News. There's plenty of space in Sharks territory for, San Jose Hockey Now, what I do at Inside the Rink, what Max does it over. There's plenty of space for everybody. So this isn't like Toronto or where there's like 50,000. There's like 6 of us. Okay. So plenty of space for everybody. So just make sure, again, supporting those who are providing the content. So if you want to support me the best, follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. We're so close to 2,000 subscribers. So if you haven't followed yet on YouTube, now is the time. Again, once we hit 2,000, I'm going to do a nice giveaway. I have a sweet replica Patrick Marleau retirement banner. So I've got one of those just like this big. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, it's like 12 inches by like 9 inches. So made of vinyl, very sturdy, very nice quality. So if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, now's the time. You can find the show also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. We're on Threads now at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter or Threads at My Fry Hole. And until tomorrow, bye, friends.